I had a couple of questions for the registrar and for county council. I know that the certification of this is a timely issue, Mr. County Council, because as soon as we certify, that person could take office immediately. That's not always the case. I remember when I was elected to this position in March of 2002, I didn't take office until the following January, so they could have taken 9 months to count the ballots, and it really wouldn't have had any effect because the seat wasn't open until 10 months later. Usually that's the case, that the election's in November or it's in June, and the person doesn't take office until the following year. In the case of the Bush-Gore race, which was proportionately probably closer to this, the inauguration wasn't until January 20th. So my kids were watching this on TV when I was teaching government at Braille Linda High School for about a month, and the result was important, but the timeliness here is probably more important because the seat is a vacant seat. It was vacant when Supervisor Correa was sworn in last December. It remains vacant today. It sits there lonely, empty, and cold, and it is yearning for someone to sit there. And 600,000 residents of the 1st District, from Garden Grove, Westminster, Midway City, and the entire city of Santa Ana, are waiting for a voice there in that seat. Now, they may have to wait one more week, but hopefully they won't have to wait very much longer. During that time, all of us, I think, have done our best to treat these two candidates equally. I can speak for myself, but I've spoken on several occasions with both Councilwoman Nguyen and Garden Grove Board Member Nguyen, and my office has made an effort to provide them with the agenda for this meeting as well, and I believe that Janet has an agenda for this meeting, should she be sworn in here today. We want them to be ready, we want them to be prepared, because there are a number of items, including a few on this very agenda today, on which they might be the swing vote. The irony of this, Registrar Kelly, is that at the very time that we're going to an electronic voting system, and if you go into the ballot, if you go into the polling place on election day, very, very simple. You push one button, it electronically records your ballot, and the counting is automatic. And we've done that since all the hanging and dangling chads from those few Florida counties as a result of the 2000 election. But the very time that we're going to an electronic ballot at the polling place on election day, more and more people are choosing voluntarily to vote in the convenience of their own homes by paper ballot at home. So the very problem that the electronic ballot has completely eliminated is becoming increasingly problematic, because by personal choice, and the law is also making it easier for people to vote by absentee. I still vote at the polling place on election day, and I think that's where people should vote, unless they're unable to do so physically or by travel circumstances. But more people are doing it the other way, and in this particular campaign, an outreach was done in that regard, so be it. So we're faced with these issues. I'm struck, like Supervisor Campbell is, on what really is an identifying mark, and I guess that is an issue. If a person votes for Trung or Janet and they write a little comment by it, good luck, that would not automatically disqualify the vote, would it? Or would it? Did any writing disqualify it, or just something that identified that particular person?
No, and I'll give you an example. There were ballots where the voter rewrote the ballot designation of the candidate. That did not disqualify the ballot.
I think I was there. I was there a couple of times when these things were going over, and each one was being debated.
Right, and something like good luck, for example, could disqualify a ballot. And I think both sides would probably agree that this process was gone over with a fine-tooth comb in terms of looking at these ballots very carefully and making a decision based on legal opinion from the county council.
Right. A judge, of course, has broader guidelines to look at these than you do. Judges are there to interpret the law, also to interpret the intent of the law, and they go beyond, I think, the literal wording to look at the overall effect of law, which they may do at this time. Another irony of the electronic ballot is that these electronic ballots are pretty much foolproof, but it's like if you were to do a complicated math problem on your home calculator, you probably wouldn't by hand try to do the same problem by hand to see if the calculator was correct. If you did it and it took 20 minutes to do it by hand and it was different than the calculator, you'd probably assume that the calculator was correct. Just like the computer now points out misspelling and grammatical problems and things like that, although there are a few words that they still don't recognize. But the whole point of the backup, the paper ballot backup, which we at great expense added to our electronic voting system, was for in cases of recounts to have that as a backup. And yet we're being told that it apparently is the option of the recounters whether they want to use that or not. You're saying that is not a mandatory part of the recount. Others are saying that it is. Why is that there then? Is it there in case somebody's actually disputing whether the computers were misprogrammed or something?
Exactly for that reason, Mr. Chairman, yes. And incidentally, in the 1% manual tally that we use, we are required by law to use the VVPAT printers in that 1% tally.
Okay.